You know, it's kind of staggering when you stop and think about the world we live in. We've got these technological miracles all around us, right? We can talk to anyone on the planet instantly. We're curing diseases that used to be a death sentence, and we carry all of human knowledge around in our pockets. But, and this is the big but, all that power also brings with it a terrifying potential for destruction, and that forces us to grapple with a really fundamental question about where we're all headed. So here's the question we're tackling today. Is all this technological progress actually making humanity more peaceful, or is it making us more dangerous? It's this huge contradiction at the heart of our modern world, isn't it? On one hand, technology seems to be knitting us all together. But on the other, it's giving us some seriously scary new ways to tear everything apart. So to really get a handle on this, we've got to look at both sides of the coin. Let's start with the optimistic view. So, all right, first up, how can technology be a force for peace? Well, the argument here is that it's not really about the latest shiny gadget. It's about how technology is completely changing the way our world is wired together, especially when it comes to money and how we all interact. Okay, so the idea here is what you could call a positive cascade. It starts with global connectivity. Think about everything from giant container ships to the fiber optic cables crisscrossing the ocean floor. All this tech creates this massive tangled web of global trade and finance. Our economies become completely interdependent. I mean, just look at the phone in your pocket. Its parts probably came from a dozen different countries. So what happens when everyone's success is tied to everyone else's? Well, suddenly, going to war becomes insanely expensive for everybody involved. It just wrecks the whole system. Supply chains break, markets crash, investments disappear. In this world, peace isn't just a nice idea, it's actually profitable. And hey, it's not just about the money, right? The same tech connects us on a much more human level. It helps break down ignorance because we can actually see and talk to people from totally different walks of life. It spreads ideas about things like human rights and democracy like wildfire. And when a crisis hits somewhere, it can get the whole world to pay attention fast. And maybe most importantly, technology is helping improve the basics. Better healthcare, more food. This tackles poverty and scarcity, which, let's be honest, are often the root causes of conflict in the first place. Okay, that's a pretty convincing argument for the bright side, isn't it? But now we have to flip the coin, because for every single one of those amazing peace-promoting benefits, there's a dark reflection, a way it can be twisted into something incredibly dangerous. Let's talk about technology as a source of danger. And we're not just talking about little hiccups here. No, we're talking about risks so big they could potentially unravel the entire global system. And the craziest part? These risks come from the very same tools we thought were supposed to be bringing us all closer together. You see, conflict today isn't just fought on a physical battlefield anymore. I mean, sure, we have advanced weapons that are more destructive than anything we've ever seen in history. But the new battlefronts, they're invisible. We're talking about cyber conflict, where an attack can shut down a country's power grid or its financial markets without a single bullet being fired. And then there's information warfare, using things like social media to pump out disinformation to poison a society from the inside out by destroying trust and turning people against each other. And here's what's so tricky about all of this. Most of this technology isn't automatically good or evil. There's a specific term for this. It's called dual-use technology. And it's a really important idea. It just means that the very same breakthrough can be used for peaceful purposes and for destructive ones. And that makes its impact really, really hard to predict, let alone control. So you end up with these two faces of innovation. This is really the core of the whole problem. Think about it. The science that gives us clean nuclear energy, it's the exact same science that gives us nuclear weapons. The AI that's learning to diagnose cancer, it can also be used to guide a self-piloting drone in warfare. The global communication networks that let us talk to our friends on the other side of the world, they can be used for massive disinformation campaigns. The technology itself is basically neutral. It's a blank slate. It's our choices that decide what gets written on it. And this leads us to what might be the real heart of the issue. It's not that the tech itself is evil, it's that our wisdom, our ability to make rules and manage this stuff, is falling way, way behind how fast we can innovate. It's created something called the governance gap. And you see this pattern over and over again. You could call it the acceleration problem. First, a groundbreaking new technology is born. Then, it gets adopted really, really quickly. It spreads like wildfire through society. But then, there's the gap. This is that terrifying period of vulnerability where our rules, our ethics, and our laws just haven't caught up yet. And it's only after that, often way too late, that society finally tries to regulate it and manage the new reality. It's in that gap that all the really scary stuff can happen. It's like our institutions, our laws, our whole ethical framework, they're all just struggling to keep up with the sheer pace of change. We're constantly playing catch up. Innovation is moving at the speed of a rocket ship, and our ability to govern it is moving at the speed of a snail. So by the time we finally figure out the rules for today's tech, a totally new one has already popped up with a whole new set of problems. We're always reacting instead of being proactive, and that creates a ton of instability. Okay, so where does all this leave us? If the tech isn't good or bad on its own, and we're always a step behind in managing it, how do we even think about our future? How do we resolve this huge paradox of hope and fear? Well, the answer might lie in a different way of thinking about what technology actually does. Let's talk about our amplified future. This is probably the single most important idea to grasp. Technology acts like a multiplier, or maybe a better word is an amplifier. Think of it like a giant megaphone. It doesn't have its own voice or its own intentions. It just takes whatever we put into it, our good intentions, our bad intentions, our desire to create, our desire to destroy, and it just makes it louder, a lot louder. Yep, it just amplifies our human choices. It magnifies our wisdom when we decide to guide it responsibly, but it also magnifies our conflicts when we misuse it. Put it another way, technology is just making us more of what we already are. If we choose cooperation, it gives us unbelievable tools to build a better world. But if we choose conflict, it gives us tools to cause destruction on a scale that was once unimaginable. So, what's the path forward? Well, it's pretty clear the answer isn't to just stop inventing things. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. The real challenge is governance. It's about getting way better and way faster at building the guardrails. We're talking about things like modern arms control agreements, more international scientific cooperation, creating strong ethical frameworks before a technology is released, and having regulatory bodies that can actually keep up. It's all about steering these incredibly powerful tools in the right direction. Which, in the end, brings the whole question right back to us, to you and me. Because if technology is just an amplifier for our choices, then what are we going to choose to amplify? The future isn't going to be decided by what the machines do. It's going to be decided by what we do with them. Technology has handed humanity a microphone that can reach every corner of the globe. The only question left is, what are we going to say?